guys, welcome to Unapologetic Melody. I'm Damara,
And I'm Gina.
and this is a podcast about music with a dash of pop culture. Today, we are going to discuss
The gentrification of Afrobeats, and oh my goodness, let me
the gentrification of Afrobeats. Do we put too much pressure on our icons?
And what does independent really mean? And if you please like us, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, even though sometimes we can be a bit forgetful, but you guys love us for it.
Okay, let's get into it. So, gentrification of Afrobeats. What are the cons? What are your negative feelings about it?
So I'm happy about like Afrobeats like taking off and becoming like a huge genre because again, we're both Nigerian, British Nigerian, so I'm loving that. Especially I'm loving this for culture, I'm loving this for Ghana, I'm loving this for Congo, I'm loving this for Afrobeats to becoming global, right? I'm just scared that it's becoming gentrified that it's becoming gentrified in order for us to get global success. But now I'm gonna have to start diluting our culture in order to appeal to the masses. And so I see the beginning of this trend where okay, like in order for us to like really get mainstream, we're gonna have to start like again, I don't mind us covering with like American artists and stuff because I know how the game of the charts work. Like America is a huge market that needs to be appealed to. But I'm like, do we even need America at this point to be like successful? Because like we're successful in Africa, we're successful in Europe and stuff, and it seems like in order for us to be successful in a place like America, it does seem like we have to almost dilute and filter our culture in order to be successful there. And I don't want that. And I think this is because I'm very passionate about Afrobeats and our culture, and I see something happening and I just don't want it to happen. So I'm a bit fearful of it.
So I have a I have an unpopular opinion. I think that artists that make, the Afrobeat radio hit, they're still making the really authentic Afrobeats. It's just those aren't getting into the charts. So what will happen is the artist will make, for example, their Water or the Unavailable or the Amapiano, the really popular song that puts them on, then that's like an introduction. And then you'll research the artist and then you'll actually then hear their really authentic Afrobeat songs that are still in line with like what really makes an Afrobeat songs, from the drums to the beat to the production. So I think actually it's just a way to put them on. And that's the same in any category. You know, the Latin songs that do really well, you'll realize that when you actually go and listen to their catalogue, they will have more songs that are more, in line with the sound of their culture. It's just to get into the number one spot or to get into the charts. Unfortunately, the music has to be made palatable to everybody's ears.
I don't agree with this because if we're talking about like, because I'm going to compare it to the Latin community, right? With like Latin stuff, you have people like Carol G, and even yes, Bad Bunny also has so many songs of that stuff too. But his album, he'll have whole Spanish albums that still chart like crazy. And Carol G, who still has whole Spanish albums of maybe, and then she'll do sprinkles of other songs there, but they'll have mainly like Spanish albums that still do stuff like crazy and still end up in Billboard without them having to always cross over because there's such a strong Latin market that can do that kind of stuff. Like they have their own Grammys, which is just how prominent they are. I would love for us to get to a point where we have our own Grammys. That is my dream for us. I would love us to actually have our own type of Grammys for like African music, African culture to be represented that well. So I feel like the pull that like the Latin community has and where we are, we're not there yet. So I feel
But
like
we're talking about America though. So
that's
if you actually look at numbers compared the African diaspora in, let me just even make it more specific. Right now is what's really popular is Amapiano and Nigerian music. So the diaspora with South Africans and Nigerians, if you compare that to the Latin community, come on, like there's not really a comparison.
yeah, because obviously they have. I mean, that's true. Like in like that, there's a huge Latin market and economy in America
Yeah,
on top of
literally.
South America and that stuff
Exactly.
too. And I guess that's so much stronger
I
building
think
phase.
I think over here has a larger impact.
Because gonna say, because if we're gonna talk about that, the reason why, like for example, like African artists can sell out opportunities here is because a lot of us are first generation and second generation immigrants from straight out from Africa. So that's, and we have very staple communities here. You know, from Ghana to Africa to Uganda, especially Caribbean culture is so strong here because of first generation and second generation immigrants coming there in the 60s and stuff, which is why they can sell concerts. And a lot of us tend to migrate across Europe. That hasn't really, like, yes, there are what's called Africans and Caribbeans in America, but it doesn't seem to have the same cultural prevalence in the USA compared to like the Latin community, which is why, for example, they can cross over here quite easily, but it takes a really hard work for them to sell out in America, like big
And
stadiums and arenas there.
and that's why I think the diluted Afrobeat song is made as the introduction to them as an artist. I don't actually think it means that their whole catalogue has to be that way. It's just for me to be seen by the whole world because everyone tunes into the billboards. That's the song I'm gonna use for you guys to like get a taste of me. But then when you actually see my catalogue, you'll see that, you know, I've got my authentic stuff. I think it just depends on, it's like a case by case um thing on the artist, because if I want to be a pop artist, then yes, I'm gonna make the diluted down Afrobeat songs. If I want to be like the Grammy winner, but like maybe album of the year though, you know the categories, to get into the categories that aren't so racially coded, you do have to make universal music, in my opinion. So it just depends on what the artist wants to achieve and what they want from their career. Like if you want the number ones, unless you've got the crazy pool of, maybe I always use Mother as an example, but unless you have the crazy pool of someone like Beyonce, where authentic music to your heart can still go number one, then props to you. You've done what every artist is dreaming to do. But until then, the pop formula, that is the way to be seen universally by everyone and to get into the top five spot.
I mean, yeah, it was successful for Remo because "Calm Down" was one of the like biggest songs, and it was because of Selena Gomez co-sign did a lot for him, and it definitely put Remo on
Yeah.
like that. Selena Gomez co-sign got him the VMAs and things like that too.
Exactly. He's got some
And
Ice Spice. All because he made, like, you know, that song is so chill as well. Don't get me wrong, it's still an Afrobeat song, but, you know, I'm not going to compare it to Dumebi or his other, you know, really hard Afrobeat songs.
I'm just questioning is that do we? My question is that again, I know we're talking about US and US top Billboard and that carries so much weight in the industry, but I'm just like, do we need America really as much as we think we do? Because look at how successful these artists were, even without the Americans. You know, they're still selling out O2s. They still do concerts all over Europe because again, the African Caribbean culture is so strong.
It's so huge.
It's so strong.
But we are a small country, though. I think.
But the real money is where the America is.
That's the thing. Like, you're not getting the brand deals and the movie roles from being big here. If we're just being real, you're not going to the Grammys from just being big here. I need to stop saying just because it's like putting down their achievements. It's amazing to do well here. Don't get me wrong. I can't wait till I'm doing amazing here, but it's just America is
the money maker.
Cake. Like, America is the cake.
It is true. America's the money.
The cake.
It's the bread.
And then it even puts you, like, if you're big in America, you're basically big everywhere. You're big in the Latin community. You're big in Asia. Where else? You're big in Australia. Everyone taps in to America, regardless of where you're from. So that's why it makes sense as an artist to try and break America. You know, if you try and you're unsuccessful, props to you for even getting the resources to try. But it's very, I mean, what happens is, you know, when artists, it's very easy to outgrow your original country. You know, it's quite easy to, as a small country as we are, to achieve number one, to sell out the O2. Once you've done that for your career, you don't want to say that's your glass ceiling, do you?
Because there's always something bigger.
And America is
America's
bigger.
America's the golden goose. I think my fear is that I just don't want us, because we're enjoying it right now because we are finally being recognized amongst even the most legitimate institutions like the Grammys. I think the VMAs is I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the VMAs, I think someone said they're going to start creating an award for African artists. Tomorrow we'll check this up, but because I know Rima won a VMA. And I think it was for like best African song. Like, we are actually now being recognized by some of even the most American and legitimate institutions.
Ooh.
And I love that for us.
It's best Afrobeats.
Best Afrobeats. Exactly. We are now getting our own categories in the VMAs. I feel like people don't understand how big this is for us and our culture, which I love. But I just don't want us to be saying this in about 6 years' time. Like, wow, a lot of our Afrobeats have become too westernized. We've become too taken out of our culture, because it does happen. So I just don't want that to be a thing that we'll say in 7 years that we let ourselves get westernized in order to get this global recognition that we get. I want us to keep our authenticity in the same way that the Latin community gets to keep their authenticity because they had their own Grammys and stuff like that too. My dream is for us to have our own Grammys, by the way. I would love that for us.
Do you know what? There is actually like a Nigerian music award. It's just not recognized by everyone. So we need the Grammys. It would be nice if the Grammys did an award ceremony for everyone. The Latin, African,
Asian, yeah. And also, the Grammys also need to expand as well. Like, so for now, it's Best African Performance. We need to have Best African Song, Best African art, what's it called? Best African Song, Best African Album, Best African Duo. Like, we need to expand all of those categories. Like they need, I think, as we're starting out, ideally, I need them to expand it to about 6 categories. So that way, more African artists, by the way, who are not just Nigerian, because some of you lot seem to just be mad at us because we, like, us Nigerians seem to just be taking over everything. And you lot were so happy when Tyler won, because it was like, yes, finally the Nigerians have been unseated. So it just feels like the whole of like Africa versus Nigeria.
It's such a tiring,
the diaspora wars, man.
Honestly, it's a very tiring conversation, but
that's why we need more categories, so that way Ghana and all these other countries are recognized. Everyone can win, but it's like, damn, man, everyone just seems to be all of Africa against Nigeria now.
I do get what you're saying though. Like, it's just, I think it's balance. I think it's balance. All about balance. I don't mind when artists do make the music that are westernized. And if they do have that, then have a couple, the gully Afrobeats songs on their album. I think that's a really good way to get those songs acknowledged and those songs into a Grammy nomination. Like, for example, I don't know, I'll just use 𝐕𝐈𝐃 as an example. If he makes a westernized album, but it's the really authentic African Nigerian song that's the popular one, that's a beautiful way to get a really authentic song into, the realms of America and, being in the Mount Rushmore up there. But if it's just, you're an Afrobeat artist and you're now making pop, then the authenticity and the music and the originality, things like that does go down the drain. So I think it's about balance, like not completely discarding the songs you original make to get recognized. Just do both. You can do both. It is very possible, but it's just, some artists, sometimes they get a bit lost with their direction and they go more towards the Western side.
I think you pretty much summed up a good solution. So I have nothing to add on. You pretty much summarized the solution for me. So,
yeah. You got a song. If you got an album with 10 songs, maybe do 4. Do 4 really pop ones, then 6.
That's it. 60-40.
60-40, not 50-50. 60-40
ratio. Good solution. All right, I like that solution. So that's good. On to our next topics. So we'll be also discussing what does being independent really mean in this day and age, because I feel like, no, do you know what? I'm gonna let you start this.
Okay. So if we're actually gonna get down to the nitty-gritty, independent artists are probably not the ones going crazy on your radio and getting millions of views on YouTube. And I say that because just because you're not signed to a major label, that doesn't actually mean that you're an independent artist. You can be signed to an independent label. You can also have a distribution deal. So we even need to get into what these mean.
We have to start by giving definitions first.
We actually do.
This is a good conversation to have. So this idea of being independent is this idea about not being financially backed and supported by a traditional music label. Now, in recent years, there's been a greater discourse on what the idea of independence means, because recently regarding so many feuds between artists and their labels, there's been a conversation about exploitative contracts, talking about 360 deals, and the 360 deal is the idea where a label takes a percentage of whatever you make pertaining to your music, brand deals, movie deals, market deals, touring. They'll take about a cut of everything that you make, merch, all of that yada. So they'll take a percentage of everything. And so there have been a lot of cases where artists have complained about being exploited by their labels, losing publishing rights, losing the rights to their masters, which is the over recordings of their music. And so due to this, in the past 5 to 6 years, there's been a recent push for artists to want to be independent in order to have complete full ownership, creative control. Because also when you sign to a label, sometimes you don't get to drop when you want to. The label will tell you when to drop, or your label might be delaying and pushing back your album. But independence gives you full creative control to drop whenever you want to be able to release music on your own terms and to have full ownership over your music, which has become a huge talking point within the 5-6 years, because we have artists like Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun beefing, and so many other beefs. I remember Migos talking about their issues with that stuff too, and so many other artists. So independence is a huge deal. If we're talking about distribution deals, distribution is the place that you will record your music, but a distribution deals is the people who distribute your music to streaming platforms, to all of that stuff, who will have your music sent to radio play and also give you marketing and promotion. So you can be signed to a label which pay to make your music, but the distribution platforms will be the one who will be having it sent to like streaming, like Spotify, Apple, all that stuff, to radio stations and all that stuff. So there's a difference.
Yeah, and can I just add as well, with the 360 deal, I don't know if you said it, labels usually would just distribute as well. It usually is a normal record deal. Make your songs and we're going to put your songs everywhere. Music videos, marketing. There's an aspect of labels that does marketing, promo, everything. So yeah, what people are trying to sell to us now, not saying any names, is I'm out of my label now, so I'm independent. Like, no. You fund your music and your music videos, which is great, and probably you pay someone to do your marketing, amazing. But you actually like have a deal with somebody else to get your songs everywhere. I don't think that's entirely independent, and that's what people are trying to perpetuate to the masses, because not everyone has the knowledge and music business to understand that. They just think if you're not signed to a label, you're independent. Like, no, that's not the case.
There's so much more to that.
Yeah.
I think the word independent has honestly just become a buzzword at this point. People are just using that term way too loosely. It's like most people don't actually understand what it really means to be independent. Yeah. And example of this is Ross. Ross is someone who I think is someone who's actually independent, and he
doesn't have a distribution deal.
I need to actually triple check this, because thing is like when we search up independent artists, a lot of artists who come up as independent, like for example, 21 Savage, for example, is not signed to a label, right? But he has a distribution deal. People like Chance the Rapper are technically independent. People like so what's it called?
Are you technically independent if you have a distro deal though?
Okay, because who's another artist? What's it called? I know the artist. I just forgot the name for a brief second. Give us so let me just keep talking while tomorrow actually searches this up, because my phone is being slow. But there are loads of artists who, when you actually search up an independent artist, they what's it called, come up as the stuff too.
I think artists start off independent. You know,
you can
start off independent. You know, it's literally like You know, you fund the music video yourself, you fund the song and the creation of the song yourself, you pay somebody to do your marketing. And then, you know, when you get your big break,
Frank
that's when
Ocean.
the labels.
Frank Ocean comes up
Frank
as an
Ocean.
Frank Ocean. Sorry, comes up as an independent artist. Sorry, this name was on my thing as well. Like Frank Ocean comes up as an independent artist, right? But when they say independent, what you mean is that you're not signed to a label, but you have a huge. I'll get back to your point afterwards. But you have a huge distribution deal afterwards, and then you have management that also does a lot of that does a lot of marketing and promo for you. So it's like, yes, you're not signed to a label, but you're being blacked by multiple other conglomerates. So it's like, to me, it's like, is that really independent? Because you still got multiple conglomerates helping you. But what was your previous point, Tamara?
So what I was saying is, artists will probably start off independent, um, and then, you know, they fund everything with their music, from their music video to the photographers, promo shoots. They fund everything, you know. Then they get their big break, and then they might sign the song or do a deal. Then when the deal is up, for whatever reason they don't want to continue it, all the fans they've gained, the relationships they've gained, all of those things, when you leave the label, doesn't go anywhere. It's still there. So
Sorry, do you mean staff at a label, not independent? Because you said staff independent. Do you mean they staff at a label then go independent?
start off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because you said staff independently, but do you mean a label?
No, I
Oh.
mean independent.
Oh, okay.
Or you find independent label or independent. But even with the independent label situation, you're still not independent. You can. I'm not talking about independent label. I'm talking about independent. Like, you've self-funded everything, because the independent label still funds everything you do. It's just not the big three. You know. So yeah, you start off independent, like solo. You are your own record label. Then you get your big break, and then you might sign the song, or you do the normal deal, or whatever deal you sign on. Then in them years when you've had your success via what the label has provided you, the machine it is, you've got your fans, you've got your relationships with people. If you're smart, you'll actually make your own relationships, not just leave it all to the label. Cool. Then your deal is up, and then it doesn't serve you anymore. I feel like that's when people do the change, which is cool. I'm not gonna sign, but I'm a millionaire now. I can fund everything. I've got a studio downstairs in my room. I don't need to pay for studio time anymore. I can just source producers to come to me. I am my own A&R. Talented artists will be their own A&R. They don't actually need to be signed to a major deal. And then all you would need is some sort of distribution pattern, because it is hard to get, or to do that aspect of a release. It's easier when you just have someone to do it for you.
It's so much harder. But even then, if we're talking about these distribution deals, another thing that like really like aggravates me is that when you say distribution deal, so we have the big three labels in the industry. It is Universal, it is Sony Records, and it is Warner. And so when people are signed to multiple different like under projects like 10K Records or like 300 Entertainment, they are typically all under one of the three labels. They're either in partnership or in association with. There are some that are completely independent. I'm not going to dismiss that. But a lot of the time, when you do your research, you will find that even these smaller ones, they are under a conglomerate in partnership or associated in relation to one of the big three. So even when you see artists who claim to be independent that are signed under like 10K records or 300 records or make up like 1521 records, when you do, I'm just making that by the way. So when you actually do your research, you'll find most of the time they're in partnership, associated with, or under the conglomerate of one of the big three records in the industry. So it's all interconnected. Like when we do our research, is that most of these artists are going to be independent. The other distribution deal might be, some might be flat out with, like, for example, like Megan Thee Stallion, who just recently announced that she's independent artist who has a huge distribution deal with Warner Brothers. To me, is that independent because you're signed to one of the biggest labels in the entire industry. I don't view that as full independence because you're getting a huge push by one of the big labels.
Yeah, it's
You are
not
just
the
not
same.
signed. It's not the same.
Yeah, I think.
It's not the same.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same. I just think. Okay, if we have the word, I think it's like semi-independent.
That is a good word.
I think it's semi-independent.
Semi-independent. I think
Because
that's
I
a better
take
word.
independent literally. Like, you don't have any business dealings with anyone. Like, you were doing everything. The only thing I'll give you leeway. Actually, no. If you're paying someone to promote your stuff, I still think you're independent. Like, I pay you, you post it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in this day and age, like, it's actually not possible to be doing every single aspect of your release. It's very, very hard and time consuming. You are one person, you don't have a team.
Russ, just to do some research. So Russ tells us why. So Russ in the article says that he has his own label. So he's not a label. He has his own.
That's still independent. That's just, it's his own. He made a label, yeah.
But he has had multiple partnerships with Columbia.
What, post not signing a record deal?
So in June 2020, he announced via Instagram that he was 100% independent again. Russ has released multiple different projects since the end of his partnership with Columbia in 2020, including Trump EP. So it's kind of like, I think he's like a semi-independent, but he has his own label in the same way. Megan also has one called Hot Girl Productions where she does that kind of stuff too. And Russ makes a lot of money independently that he can self-finance. But again, it was
it's
like
just linking to what I'm saying. It's semi, yeah.
And again, so it's like when I see artists and they're like, if they're signed to 10K projects, just do your quick research and find out that's probably under partnership to one of the big three labels. And again, I understand that because this is the music industry. Like, realistically, you kind of do need help from one of the big three, to be honest.
To be what I mean, to be superstar. Yes.
You have to have one of the big three.
To be a global superstar, 100%.
You need one of the big three. If you're just aiming to just release music, tour, and do whatever you want to, whenever you want to, and because if you're in the US, it's such a big market.
You don't need to actually be signed.
You can actually be successful in a niche lane.
Yeah, you can.
With full independence and not being signed to one of the big three. It's possible. But tomorrow, you're right about the superstar.
Yeah, it's just, if you want to be a superstar, you can't run it by yourself. It's too much work to do for one person.
But yes, I do agree. We're using the word independent too loosely because if we're talking about how the industry actually works, most of our artists typically think independent are getting some type of help under a conglomerate or under the help of the big three. And even then, we even talk about management. Like, management also is huge as well. Like, if you're signed to a huge management deal,
if you're signed to Rock Nation,
if you're signed to
you're gonna have a great time.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's just like, women because of independent. I was like, yeah, but you also have the backing of Jay-Z, Beyonce, and you have a huge Rock Nation machine behind you. So I don't view her as independent.
I think she's independent artistically.
Yes.
Because she's not signed to a label anymore. There's no one that can control what she puts out, when she puts out, how she puts it out. But that aspect is the only independent aspect, I'd say. And her money, financially wise, it's her money.
Exactly, and she's rich enough that she can literally fund her own projects now. So I was gonna say, so she doesn't have. So again, she doesn't answer to anybody. She'll put out the music, and then they'll just distribute it. So I was gonna say, and it's high risk, high rewards. Because at the end of the day, you have to because again, you keep getting the distribution. Because I read some comments and stuff, and I'm like, do you not keep forgetting that the distribution still takes a cut of what you make? Yeah. It's just
you're only getting that distribution deal when you're someone like Megan Thee Stallion who has that leverage. I don't know any label that would not give her a distribution deal.
Exactly, like 21 has that same deal,
he'll make up the streams and make that money and easy.
They'll take a percentage, and then your management will take a cut, but overall it's a bigger cut than probably what you get out of a 360 deal. And plus, they're not eating out of all of your merch. Like, they're not. She gets to keep all of her merch. She'll keep all of her tours. She'll keep all of her stuff outside of music. Yeah, except for the management.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I was going to say, except for management. The management, because they help her get the deals, they'll take a cut for what she makes. But with the distribution, it's just coming out of her music. So she's actually saving more money in the long term than compared to that, probably, because Carl did say she was in a 360 deal. before, and
I'm happy she's out of that, man.
I was gonna say we're gonna end it here, but we can have a whole
We
conversation
could talk
on
about
shady music contracts
Yeah.
and how to help artists out. But I think that's a conversation for a different day. Any final comments?
Like I said, if you're trying to be a superstar, you can't be a superstar. Like when I say global superstar, and be independent. And I think the reason why people say they're independent is because the credit that comes with saying, "Oh yeah, I'm independent." People think you work harder, you know, and you grind more than someone that's signed to a label, and then you get more props for that.
Which is an illusion, by the way. You still have to work your ass off if you have a label. Like most of the time, a label don't even care about you until you get a bit of clout. So then it's actually most of your team doing the work until you get the clout, and then the label will be like, "Oh wow, she's actually really good. So now I'm gonna invest money into her." It's a whole complicated thing in the industry overall. So
it's a business,
big business. So. Yeah, so onto our final topic is I think also we want to have a conversation about, do we put too much expectations on our music legends? Have we put too much expectations on realistic standards onto our music legends, so when they don't live up to what we've thought that they did, should we be disappointed? Should I start or should you start?
No, you can start.
Yes, we put way too much expectation on legends. I've gotten to a point that I don't put expectations on celebrities anymore because I don't know these people. So why am I putting expectations on people that I don't know? If we're talking about our music legends, let's start with another elephant in the room, Oyinka.
Who?
Nicki Minaj. I call her Oyinka, by the way, because it's really funny. But Nicki Minaj, like, everyone who is disappointed in her antics recently is like, Nicki has, and again, I'm someone who, when it comes to Nicki, I've always compartmentalized with her. I've managed to put different associations between her music and her personality, but now it's gone to a point where her personality is clashing too much with the music, so now it's just like, okay, now I have to address the elephant in the room. Nicki Minaj has always not been the best person in the world, and we've known this for many, many years. If we're being honest with ourselves, it started with the beef with Lil' Kim, where Lil' Kim warned all of us about Nicki. Remy Ma literally said after her beef with Nicki, that behind the scenes that Nicki was trying to stop her bag and trying to get paying people to not work with her. Cardi B said a lot of the same things, but because it was Cardi B, we didn't take her seriously. There's been other stuff of who she's been married to and lawsuits that have been taken on from that marriage. Like, Nicki has always shown us who she is, and I think the disappointment to me shouldn't be there because she's always been this way, and we try to put her up as this harbinger of female rap unity. When has Nicki ever said that she wanted to be the face of female rap unity? I have not ever heard Nicki say that. Like, why are we putting these standards onto Nicki that she's never said this herself? I've never once said on this podcast that I think Nicki should be the face of female rap unity because she's never said it. And if you paid attention, this girl has beefed most female rappers, so I'm not even gonna put that on her.
So I think what it comes down to is she might not be this kind person, right? But she's not marketing herself in that way. Like, you know, the likes of the Sukianas, City Girls in their earlier careers. Who else? Cardi in her early career. Actually, no, I'm going to use Cardi. Cardi's the exception to the rule. But then again, colorism, etc. So I think that obviously she's being packaged as this rap queen.
She is the rap queen, by the way.
No.
No dispute. Nicki is the rap
When
queen.
I say rap queen, though, take the word queen literally. That's what I think we are attributing to her. Queens, they're regal, they're kind, they're all of these things that we put in all these expectations onto her because we've given her that title.
And a queen shall not come off her throne.
Yeah, but also as well, to be a queen, you have to be kind. You know, all those things.
Like Queen Bee.
Yeah, you can't, like, to be queen, like, to rule, you have to be fair, you have to be a leader, all of these things. I think that because we've given her that label, we expect her to act that way, but that's not who she is. But she's also bought into that brand that we've labeled her.
That is that. Do you know? I can't even dispute
She's
that.
also selling that to us.
I
So
can't dispute that.
I think that's where the outrage comes from people when we're disappointed by her actions. That's what I think personally, because she's not out here saying, you know, I'm Harlem, Harlem. I'm not the queen. I'm
But
just a girl from Harlem. Like,
but
that's
she's
not what she's doing.
she's always had Roman. I am Miss Petty. But again,
That's quite recent though.
the thing is, no, but she's always had the Roman.
Roman, but I've never heard. I only heard Miss Petty till when she got married.
I was gonna say the recently I am Miss Petty stuff has been.
Yeah, Roman is the alter ego. So I think that's where our outrage comes from when we see her acting out in this way. Because for a long time, when there wasn't people to ruffle her feathers, there was no fuse. People didn't really take the Lil Kim thing seriously. I think personally.
No, people didn't. And plus,
and
Lil'
Remy
Kim
Ma,
was
did we
aging.
take Remy Ma's thing? We just thought they're hating, like.
And looking back,
And she didn't even respond. She literally, in that regard, we were like, oh, she didn't respond. Such a queen. You see what I mean?
I was gonna say, because No Frauds wasn't really like.
Yeah, we have championed her, and she acted like that champion till she wasn't acting like that anymore, and that's why we're mad. If we gave her the label of being the bully, we wouldn't feel a way about how she's acting.
That's a good point that I will not dispute.
But then also as well, she wouldn't be this global icon if that was her brand, because that don't really sell for the black woman.
You know, I can't even dispute that with the Nicki thing. And even when I'm pertaining to Nicki, like other artists, like with like let's just talk about like Diddy, for example. Like Diddy was this icon of like black excellence, and the idea of like watching a black man from Harlem who had gone through poverty.
That's what he was selling
to attain himself to be this billionaire. But if we pay attention to the story of Diddy has always had these stories about him throughout the industry. There has always been these stories about who Diddy really was. And the thing is, it was a well-known secret who Diddy's always been. You know, if we're going back to making the band, I knew Diddy was a menace when he made people walk 2 hours just to get to just get a piece of cake. That's hazing of new artists.
Wasn't it his assistants?
No, he made the people that he was showing in making
the competition.
in making the band. Yeah. That is hazing.
Did you know at the time that was regarded as being a boss? Like, he did that on cameras, and not one person was like, "Oh, this is," because production didn't say stop.
Because one is they want content, and again, the contestants, they don't know any better because they look to
people
him.
Could argue
Diddy
that
has
was for
always
entertainment purposes.
Yeah, but the thing is that like Diddy has always shown himself, even in all other things, he's always shown himself for who he really is. I think they're now all surprised.
Yeah, I think the making the band, it's not real. I think he's shown who he is.
It's real for Aubrey, because Aubrey hates his guts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reality. I'm not going to judge someone on how they behaved on a reality TV show that they were executive producing. You see what I mean? A lot of his interests were protected in that. Like, to act like the big boss, the big mojo, I'm sure that's what we wanted. That's what was successful. Making the band was very successful. I think with the other thing you were saying is he's shown himself in other ways out of the spotlight that we've heard about. You know, these rumors and these comments people make, and yet we're shocked. That's when I'm like, Like, I wouldn't use making the band as an example, because a lot of that was just like exaggerated and stuff.
Let's talk about an example of like the shootings, like the one with Shine, where Shine literally was sent to prison for a long time. Diddy's had multiple lawsuits.
Yes, I think that is more
the allegations
weight
of
in his
him
character.
exploiting artists such as May, such as The Lox,
Danny Kane.
You know, the complaints of Danny Kane, the family Notorious B.I.G. of him exploiting other black artists, but then him going out and making a speech about black ownership.
Yeah,
it's think like this. Yeah. What?
That stuff is, that doesn't, but all this stuff coming out, we've been knowing he's
like,
been questioned.
They literally used to call it the bad boy curse. Like, don't sign to Diddy or else you experience the bad boy curse. One of his artists literally moved to Mecca. Some of them retired. Some of them moved to Mecca because they were broke afterwards. They were making no money. Like again, justice for Mace, man. Justice for all the bad boys. But I feel so bad for Mace, particularly, because that was upsetting. So this stuff has always been there. The bad boy curse has always been there since the early 2000s. So this is the idea that Diddy exploits other people has always been there. People were looking to him for this harbinger of black excellence when he's literally built his career of exploiting his own artists who are black, which is upsetting as a powerful black man. But capitalism.
Yeah, just to link back to the question, I think we just need to remember they are normal people selling a brand to us.
With their own ventured interests.
Literally. And of course we get, as the consumers, we do get lost in the sauce. We get lost in the glitz and glam, and obviously, they're usually beautiful and stunning and charming, charismatic. Like, I don't know any successful artist that is not charming and charismatic. I mean, Kanye West used to be. He used to be.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he's now having, a fall from grace because he's no longer charming and charismatic. And we buy into that. And we overly buy into that.
Because apparently
we become fans, we become stans, we go to their shows, we stay up all night to see their Super Bowl performance. So it's like an emotional thing.
A lot of this is parasocial relationships, to be honest.
Yeah, we make up our bond with the artist. This artist does not know me from Adam, and then we feel entitled for them to treat us a certain way because we put them in a position. And I think that's where our expectations come from. Like, I'm the reason you're here, so smile at me, wave at me when I've waved to you, come down from the stage and touch my hand, and I'm like that's where I think it comes from. But it's actually not real, which is a tough pill to swallow because I love music so much, but it's changed so much from just someone can sing, they make a good song. Like, it's a business.
I think another artist who people are conscious about, and I'm only just going to quickly touch on this very briefly, but people, for example, talk about Jay-Z and stuff. So about 4 years ago, Jay-Z got into a partnership with the NFL. And this was during the time when there was still a lot of backlash with the whole Colin Kaepernick thing about him being, what's it called?
The one knee?
Yes, the one about a man who kneeled during the national anthem to protest police brutality, being blackballed from the NFL. So at this time, a lot of black artists were boycotting the NFL in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, and Jay-Z announced a huge partnership with NFL. And so people were questioning, well, you are this messiah of black excellence, and so you should be leading our cause against the NFL, but you entered a partnership with them. There were questions of, is Jay-Z a sellout? Is Jay-Z this and that too? And so people are like, oh, well, Jay-Z is changing the institution from within. And that's a valid point, by the way. Like, I get both arguments, but people keep forgetting is that we have a lot, especially for Jay-Z, but people used to mention is that Jay-Z is also someone who, he has his own, yes, he does all these things, but he's also someone who has his own interests for himself. Jay-Z has his own goals that he's also doing for himself as well. So, and especially when you are a billionaire and when you have all these ventured interests, it's that, like, it's not going to be the way that you want it to be. There's gonna be some things that we're not gonna be like this stuff too. Like, you don't get to be a billionaire through completely 100% ethical means or being goody all the time. But this is a conversation about capitalism that I just don't want to get into. I'm just gonna leave it there, just for a thought, just to say. And by the way, food for thought. By the way, I respect Jay-Z. He's a great businessman, and I love his music. So it's just a food for thought about the conversation about him working at the NFL. Did we put too much expectations on Jay-Z?
Yeah, like I said, we're just ordinary people.
Stop putting expectations onto celebrities. You don't know them. You don't know you.
They have bills to pay.
They have bills to pay. They have businesses, like
children to feed.
They have investors. They have people that they have to look out for.
They have stakeholders.
They've got stakeholders, investors.
They have investors.
So when we are putting all these expectations on them, I'm like, there's so much that goes into them. So it's like they don't think of themselves. Yeah. They have conglomerates.
We don't actually see the clock's turning as to why they've made them decisions. We'll probably never see it because that's the music industry for you.
But, again, it's just that, I've always loved Nicki as her music. Her music is iconic in my life, so it's just unfortunate just to see what's turned into. I can't lie, Nicki's music will forever be in my playlist.
Ordinary person.
A very talented, ordinary. All of them, Jay-Z, Diddy, Nicki, are all very highly talented, successful people who have changed the industry beyond anything we've ever expected.
And I think that's also part of it. I think when people achieve things like they didn't, I'm sure when Jay-Z and Nicki Minaj started out, like they've achieved their dreams and then some more. So I think it's because they're so impactful. We project onto them like how they should act, how they should behave because you're so iconic. But it's actually out of our control how they handle their icon status. And also, like with what I said with the clocks turning, we don't actually know the day in the life of Nicki Minaj and to why she's choosing to act the way she does, and we will never know. So it's just like when people do have outbursts, don't be too quick to just be like, oh, they did this, they did that.
I think Nicki's going through something.
Like,
she's going through
pressures
something.
to be, you know, in Spider-Man, they said with great power becomes a lot of responsibility. And that alone is a lot of pressure. And I think it takes a special kind of person to be able to be that kind of status of huge, of celebrity. You know, some people crack, some people break. You know, some people crack, some people break, and some people are just like titanium. So
yeah. And by the way, the Nicki one is different to what we're saying about Diddy. The Diddy stuff is a whole thing that those aren't the same, and that's even different from Jay-Z because I still respect Jay-Z as a business person and as an artist well. But yeah. So, do you want to take our intro out?
Thank you for watching our podcast. I've been Damara.
I've been your host, Sheena. And if you liked us, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in for us next time. And
wait. TikTok Damara Doll, Instagram Damara Doll.
And you've got my socials, which I will link down below. So, bye.
In the bed, I got out my feelings. Confrontation, he ain't relevant. Put him onto a little editor.